45 seconds. That's all General George S. Patton had to make a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Wehrmacht forces were retreating through the burning ruins of a small German village near the Rhine. American artillery had already received coordinates for a devastating bombardment. The village would be erased from existence in less than a minute. But standing in the middle of the cobblestone street, surrounded by 4 American soldiers with M1 Garands pointed at his chest, was a 16-year-old boy. His Hitler Youth uniform was torn and covered in ash. His hands were raised above his head in surrender, and clutched in his right hand, still loaded and armed, was a Panzerfaust, Nazi Germany's most lethal infantry anti-tank weapon. The boy was crying, not sobbing, not screaming, just silent tears streaming down his dirt-covered face, and he was speaking perfect English. "Please, don't shoot me like you shot my commander. I'm surrendering. I'm surrendering." Patton's jeep had stopped 30 feet away. The general's jaw was clenched so tight his aide could hear his teeth grinding. Because this wasn't just any Hitler Youth. This boy had personally destroyed 3 American Sherman tanks in the past 72 hours. 12 American soldiers were dead because of this child. And now Patton had 45 seconds to decide: follow protocol and eliminate an armed enemy combatant, or save a crying 16-year-old who was begging for his life in flawless English. March 1945. The Third Reich was collapsing. Hitler's once mighty Wehrmacht was now a shattered force of old men, wounded veterans, and boys. And those boys were being armed with Panzerfausts. The Panzerfaust was brilliantly simple and absolutely terrifying. A single-shot disposable anti-tank weapon that could penetrate 8 inches of armor at close range. It weighed just 11 pounds. A child could carry it. A child could fire it. And a child could destroy a 30-ton Sherman tank with one shot. German High Command knew exactly what they were doing. You could teach a Hitler Youth member to use a Panzerfaust in 15 minutes. Hide in rubble, wait until the American tank rumbled past, stand up, aim at the rear armor, pull the trigger. The shaped charge would melt through the steel like butter. The crew inside would burn alive. It was a weapon designed for suicide missions, and the Hitler Youth had been indoctrinated since childhood to die for the Führer. By March 1945, American forces were encountering these child soldiers with increasing frequency. The standing order from Allied command was clear. Armed Hitler Youth were enemy combatants. Neutralize the threat. Age was irrelevant. Patton himself had signed off on this policy after a Hitler Youth ambush killed 17 of his men. They wear the uniform, they carry weapons, they kill Americans, he had said coldly. They get treated like soldiers, no exceptions. But that was before he met Klaus Zimmermann. Sergeant Mike Delaney's patrol had been sent ahead to clear the village. 4 men, moving building to building, expecting sniper fire or booby traps at any moment. Instead, they found Klaus. He emerged from behind a collapsed wall, Panzerfaust raised to his shoulder, aimed directly at Delaney's chest. The sergeant's finger was already squeezing the trigger when he saw the boy's face. Klaus didn't fire. Instead, he lowered the Panzerfaust slowly, carefully. He placed it on the ground, raised his hands, and spoke in English that shocked every American present. "I am surrendering to United States military forces under the Geneva Convention. My name is Klaus Zimmermann. I am 16 years old. Please do not execute me." The precision of his English was stunning. No accent. Perfect grammar. American idioms. He sounded like he had grown up in New York or Chicago. "Where did you learn English?" Delaney demanded. Klaus's voice cracked. "My mother was American, from Boston. She taught me before they took her to Ravensbrück camp in 1941. My father died on the Eastern Front last year. I have nobody. I just want to surrender. Please let me surrender." Delaney saw the photograph tucked into Klaus's belt. A family portrait. A blonde woman, clearly American, standing next to a stern German man in Wehrmacht uniform. And between them, a smiling 10-year-old boy. He radioed for instructions, and that's when General Patton's jeep arrived. Patton stepped out of the jeep like he was stepping onto a parade ground. Even in a combat zone, he looked immaculate. Polished boots, perfectly pressed uniform, twin ivory-handled pistols on his hips. He walked toward Klaus with measured steps. The boy straightened despite his fear, muscle memory forcing him to stand at attention. Patton stopped 10 feet away. His expression was unreadable. that famous stone-faced glare. The radio man's voice crackled urgently. "General, artillery fire mission on this position executes in 45 seconds. Coordinates locked. Barrage to commence on your mark or auto-execute if no response." 45 seconds. Patton looked at Klaus, saw the Hitler Youth uniform with its hateful insignia, saw the Panzerfaust lying on the ground, saw the damage report in his mind. 3 Shermans destroyed, 12 dead. But he also saw the photograph clutched in the boy's hand, saw the tears, saw the perfect surrender posture. Klaus spoke again, barely a whisper. "Sir, I destroyed 3 of your tanks. I killed your soldiers. I know what I did. But my mother always told me Americans believe in justice, not revenge. She said Americans give even their enemies a fair chance. Was she wrong?" The radio crackled. 30 seconds, General." Every instinct told Patton to give the order. Eliminate the threat. This was war. This boy had killed Americans. But then Patton remembered a conversation with General Eisenhower. "When this war ends, George, we're going to have to rebuild Germany. We can't execute every child who wore that damned uniform. They're victims too." 10 seconds. Patton made his decision. "Abort fire mission. Repeat, abort fire mission. Shift coordinates 500 meters east." Then he turned to Delaney. "Sergeant, take this prisoner into custody. Full Geneva Convention protocols. I want a full intelligence debriefing within 2 hours." Patton walked back to his jeep, but before climbing in, he turned back and looked at Klaus one more time. The boy was staring at him with complete disbelief. Patton's aide asked quietly, "Sir, why did you spare him?" Patton was silent for a moment. "Because I just saw something in that boy's eyes I haven't seen in a Hitler Youth before. Regret. Real, genuine regret. If there's even a chance some of these kids can be saved from what the Nazis turned them into, we have to try." Within 2 hours, Klaus was being questioned by Captain David Goldstein, a Jewish-American interrogator who had lost his family in the camps. What Klaus revealed would change everything. "They're planning mass executions," Klaus said, his voice hollow. "All Hitler Youth members who surrendered or retreated. Himmler signed the order. Any youth under 18 who abandons his post is to be hanged as a traitor, along with his family. The list I saw had 847 names. When Patton heard this, his face turned to stone. These boys were terrified to surrender because their families would be murdered, so they fought to the death. Patton made another impossible decision. Draft a leaflet in German. "Hitler Youth. The United States Army guarantees safe surrender under Geneva Convention. Your families will be protected. I want 10,000 copies dropped within 24 hours. The backlash was immediate. Tank crews were furious. Lieutenant Bradley Morrison confronted Patton directly. "General, those Hitler Youth killed my men, and now you want us to invite them to surrender? What about justice?" Patton walked up to Morrison until they were inches apart. "Lieutenant, how old are you?" 23, sir." "When you were 16, what were you doing?" "I was in high school, sir, playing baseball." "Exactly. Now imagine if you'd been brainwashed since age 10 into a cult, handed a weapon and told Americans would torture you if you surrendered. Would you have been a killer or a victim?" Patton paused. "Winning this war truly means breaking the cycle of hate that created those child soldiers." Within 72 hours of the leaflet drop, over 200 Hitler Youth surrendered voluntarily. By war's end, 847 had been saved, nearly 90% of Himmler's execution list. Klaus Zimmermann testified at Nuremberg about Nazi atrocities against children who tried to surrender. After the war, he immigrated to America, attended Boston University, and became a teacher, spending 40 years educating about extremism and mercy. Patton kept Klaus's family photograph and his personal belongings until his death. His aide wrote, "The general would look at that photo sometimes, reminding himself that even in war's ugliest moments, there's still room for humanity, that 45 seconds can save more lives than 1,000 artillery barrages." The Panzerfaust Klaus, held during surrender, is now in the 3rd Army Museum. Next to it, a placard with Patton's quote, "War is about killing the enemy. Victory is about saving the future." Patton's decision taught both Americans and Germans a lesson that shaped post-war reconciliation. Sometimes the hardest order isn't to attack, it's to show mercy. And sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a tank or a bomb, It's 45 seconds of humanity in the middle of hell. When Klaus Zimmermann died in 2008 at age 79, he was buried in Boston with both American and German flags draped over his coffin. In his pocket, mourners found a letter he had written to General Patton decades earlier but never sent. Dear General Patton, you gave me 45 seconds when you had every right to give me 45 bullets. You showed me that mercy is not weakness, that justice is not revenge, that even in hell there are still angels. I spent my life trying to be worthy of those 45 seconds. Thank you for teaching me what it means to be truly human. At his funeral, 17 former Hitler youth members he had helped save stood in silence, each holding a single white rose, one for each of Patton's men killed before Klaus surrendered. A reminder that redemption begins with remembering the cost of war, not forgetting it.